Hi, Anna. Today, we're going to focus on how to train your brain to think in English. Are you ready?
Hi, teacher. Yes, I'm ready. I'm curious, why is it so important to think in English? I usually just translate in my head, but it takes time, and sometimes I get stuck.
That's a great question, Anna. When you think in English, you're training your brain to process the language naturally without needing to translate from your native language. This makes your speech faster and more fluid, and it also helps you understand English better because you're not constantly switching between languages. Do you notice that translating slows you down sometimes?
Yes, definitely. Especially when I'm speaking with someone. I have to pause to think of the right words, and sometimes I lose track of the conversation.
That's very common. By training your brain to think directly in English, you can avoid those pauses and feel more confident in conversations. Let's start with a simple exercise. Think in single words. Look around you right now and name everything you see in English. Can you try that?
Sure. Let me see. I see a computer, a desk, a chair, a window, and a plant. But what if I don't know the word for something? Should I just skip it?
Good question. If you don't know the word for something, don't skip it. Instead, describe it in English. For example, if you don't know the word bookshelf, you could say, "It's the place where I put my books." This helps keep your brain thinking in English and can also help you learn new words. Can you try describing something you see but don't know the word for?
Okay, I see something that holds papers together. I don't know the word, but I could say it's a tool that keeps papers in place.
Excellent. That's exactly what you should do. You're keeping your brain engaged in English, which is the goal. And for the record, that tool is called a paperclip, but now you have a way to describe it if you forget the word. Let's build on this by moving to thinking in sentences. What kind of simple sentences can you think of based on what you're doing right now?
I could say, I am sitting at my desk, or I am learning English. But sometimes I'm not sure if my sentences are correct. What should I do if I'm unsure?
That's a great start. Don't worry too much about making mistakes when you're practicing on your own. The key is to keep practicing. If you're really unsure, you can write down the sentence and check it later, or ask someone for help. It's all part of the learning process. What other sentences can you think of about your surroundings?
Let's see. The sun is shining through the window, and my plant is growing well. But what if I want to talk about what I plan to do later? How do I say that in English? I think I would say, I'm going to cook dinner later, and I will watch a movie tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. You're doing really well. Describing your plans in English is an excellent way to practice using different tenses. You can also think about what you did earlier in the day. For example, this morning I went for a walk. How would you describe your morning?
This morning I had breakfast and then I studied for a while. After that I went to the grocery store. But sometimes I forget the words for what I did. How can I improve my memory for English words?
That's a common challenge, but there are a few strategies you can use to improve your memory. One effective method is to use new words and sentences as soon as you learn them. Another is to review them regularly, like before bed or when you wake up. Flashcards can also be helpful. How do you usually try to remember new words?
I usually write them down in a notebook, but I sometimes forget to review them. Maybe I should start using flashcards or an app. Do you think that would help?
Absolutely. Flashcards and apps can be very effective because they make reviewing fun and interactive. They also help you practice regularly, which is key to remembering new words. Another tip is to try to use the new words in conversation as soon as possible, even if you're just talking to yourself. How often do you practice speaking English?
I try to practice speaking a few times a week, but I'm usually alone, so I talk to myself or sometimes to my dog. It feels a bit strange, though. Is that normal?
It's completely normal to feel a bit strange talking to yourself, but it's actually very good practice. Talking to yourself in English helps reinforce what you've learned and makes it easier to think in English. Plus, it's a great way to prepare for real conversations. You can even imagine you're having a conversation with someone else. What kinds of things do you say to yourself in English?
I usually say things like, I'm cooking dinner now, or I need to finish this task. But sometimes I pretend I'm talking to a friend like, how was your day? And then I answer myself.
That's excellent. Pretending to have a conversation is a great way to practice. You can imagine different scenarios, like ordering food at a restaurant or asking for directions. This helps you get comfortable with everyday conversations in English. What other situations could I imagine?
Maybe you could imagine you're at a store asking for help. You could say, excuse me, where can I find the bread? Or, if you're traveling, how do I get to the train station? Does that sound good?
Those are perfect examples. Imagining yourself in different situations is a great way to build your confidence. The more you practice these kinds of scenarios, the more prepared you'll feel when you encounter them in real life. Another good exercise is to describe your day in detail from morning to night. Can you try that?
Sure. Let's see. This morning I woke up early and had breakfast. Then I went for a walk and enjoyed the fresh air. After that, I came back home and started studying English. Later, I will cook dinner and watch a movie. How was that? Not really, but I like the idea. I usually think about my day in my native language, but I'll try to do it in English from now on. Maybe something like, today I'm going to study. Then I'll meet a friend for coffee. Does that sound good?
That sounds perfect. Planning your day in English is a great habit to develop. It keeps your mind engaged with the language and helps you practice different verb tenses. Another fun way to practice is by describing things you see or do throughout the day, like I'm drinking coffee or I'm walking to the store. How do you feel about trying this?
I think I can do that. I'll start with simple things like describing what I'm doing or what I see around me. But what about when I'm not sure how to describe something? Should I just skip it?
If you're unsure how to describe something, don't skip it. Instead, try to describe it in the simplest way possible. For example, if you don't know the word for umbrella, you could say, it's the thing you use when it rains. This keeps you thinking in English and helps you learn new ways to express yourself. What's something you see right now that you could describe?
Let's see. I see a remote control, but I could say it's the device I use to change the channel on the TV. Does that work?
That works perfectly. You're doing a great job of finding ways to express yourself in English. Over time, you'll build your vocabulary and be able to describe more things in detail. Also, try to challenge yourself by describing more complex things or even your thoughts and feelings. How would you describe how you're feeling right now?
Right now, I'm feeling excited because I'm learning new things, but also a little nervous because I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. Is that a good way to say it?
That's a great way to express how you're feeling. Being able to describe your emotions in English is very important, especially in real conversations. It's natural to feel a bit nervous, but remember that making mistakes is part of the learning process. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Do you have any other questions about thinking in English?
Yes, one more question. How long will it take before I can think in English without having to try so hard?
That's a very common question, and the answer depends on how much you practice. The more consistently you practice thinking in English, the faster it will become natural for you. For some people, it can take a few months of regular practice, while for others, it might take longer. The key is to keep going, even when it feels challenging. How often do you think you can practice?
I think I can practice every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. I can start with single words and then try sentences and conversations. Does that sound like a good plan?
That's an excellent plan. Practicing every day, even for a short time, will make a big difference. You're already making great progress, Anna. Just keep practicing, stay patient, and remember that every little bit helps. You'll be thinking in English naturally before you know it. Any final thoughts or questions before we wrap up?
No, I think I've got it now. I'm excited to start practicing more. Thank you so much for all your help.
You're very welcome, Anna. I'm really proud of your progress and dedication. Keep up the great work and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or need more tips. You've got this.
Thank you, teacher. I'll keep practicing and let you know how it goes. I'm sure I'll see improvements soon.
If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please subscribe, leave a like, and write in the comments if you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback about this video. Thank you, and see you in the next video.